My upbringing was far from what one might call normal. Named Love, my life turned out to be the opposite of my name. Born to a teenage mother, my father was absent. Being students, my mother couldn't get him to recognize me. As I grew up, I lived in a cluttered room. My mother would come home in the morning to sleep and leave again in the evening. Eventually, she began to lash out at me. To me, that was normal, and I didn't think of it as suffering. In first grade, a neighbor reported my situation, and I was placed in foster care. My mother never visited or contacted me after that. At 7, I was completely alone. This staff at the foster care were kind, but at school, I was bullied for being parentless. I often questioned my purpose and the meaning of my life. It was a life of constantly questioning myself in my heart. However, my life changed when I turned 18 and started living on my own. After graduating high school and leaving the facility, I got a job at a small company doing simple office tasks like copying and making tea. Most of my colleagues were women with flamboyant appearances, and I, having no interest in my looks, felt out of place. I was isolated, with no male colleagues trying to befriend me either.
Any friends for tomorrow's mixer? We're short on girls.
A colleague in a pretty dress would often say, "None, they all have boyfriends."
Yeah. Wish we had more girls at this company.
During lunch break, it was just me, eating alone at my desk, and the other girls, chatting loudly by the window. "How about Parker?" They mentioned me again.
Does she even count as a girl?
They laughed mockingly.
Oh, is Parker here? Sorry.
This kind of treatment was familiar to me since elementary school, but it still hurt. I hid my pain behind a facade, feeling like a stone, rigid and unfeeling. However, my direct supervisor, Mr. Smith, was the only one who treated me normally. He was popular among both men and women, always cheerful and smiling.
Parker, you always bring your lunch, huh? Do you make it yourself?
He always made an effort to talk to me. Yes, I do. I thought he was just being kind because he was my boss. That's what I had been thinking. So, when he invited me for dinner and said,
"Would you like to date me?"
I couldn't believe it. I knew he wasn't the kind of person to play with someone's feelings. I had also grown to like Mr. Smith. Workplace romances were forbidden, but when I turned 20 and Mr. Smith was 28, he proposed, and I resigned from my job. On my 20th birthday,
As a birthday present.
he gave me a necklace and an engagement ring.
You might think it's too early for 20-year-old love to marry, but I can't imagine being with anyone but you. I promise to make you happy.
I never thought I would hear such words. I despised myself and never dared hope someone could love me. Why me? I'm not pretty or cheerful, and I have nothing to offer. I hesitated to accept the ring, but Mr. Smith reassured me.
Love, you are beautiful. With you, I can be myself. You've saved me, and I want to support you.
His words shone brightly to me. All the hardships I faced were meant for me to savor this happiness. For the first time, I felt grateful to have been born as myself. We married, and I started calling him David. Married life brought more smiles than ever. I used to be always gloomy. Every morning, we woke up in the same bed. I prepared breakfast and lunch, gently waking up David, who was always slow to rise. We had breakfast together, and after David left for work, I did household chores and pursued hobbies he encouraged me to enjoy, like painting in my free time. I'd prepare dinner for his return at 7 p.m., and we'd share a meal with constant, enjoyable conversation, always filled with laughter. Those ordinary days brought me true happiness. But one day everything suddenly changed. 2 years into our marriage. After seeing David off to work and starting the laundry, I received a phone call from the city hospital. David had been in a traffic accident. I rushed to the hospital and found him conscious with no life-threatening injuries, but he was informed that the accident had left him unable to walk again. "Well, at least I'm alive," he said, trying to smile and comfort me, despite his own pain. When we married, David had said he could be himself around me. I wished he wouldn't put on a brave face. All I could do was hug him, silently promising to be his strength. The man who illuminated my once loveless life. "Now it's my turn to be there for you," I thought, ready to support David in his new life with a wheelchair. However, life in a wheelchair was more challenging than I had anticipated. David struggled with the difficult wheelchair maneuvers, often shedding frustrated tears. His once mobile legs now refused to obey, a reality too painful for me to even imagine. His bright smile, which had always been so radiant, faded away. I was at a loss for words, unsure how to comfort him without causing more pain. After completing rehabilitation and being discharged from the hospital, we returned home together for the first time in a while. The last time we were here together was when I sent David off to work. One evening, while helping him bathe since he couldn't wash himself, he began to cry. What's wrong? Did I hurt you? I asked, worried that I had scrubbed too hard. But David said, I feel so pathetic needing help with everything. I'm sorry. His words tightened my chest. I wondered what he was feeling, saying those words. You're not pathetic. I want to do anything for you. I want to be your strength, I told him, but his expression remained dim. Gradually, David's attitude changed. He stopped responding when I spoke to him, refused the meals I prepared, and even started yelling at me if I was slightly late when he called. Yet, none of this made me feel bitter. If my actions could lighten David's burden even a little, that was enough for me. As long as David was with me, I was content. His presence alone was my happiness. But then, one day,
I want a divorce.
David suddenly said to me. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He had already prepared the divorce papers. Everything filled out except for my signature.
I can go on living with you.
Despite my repeated pleas for explanation and promises to change, David's response remained unyielding. Why? If there's something bothering you, tell me. I'll fix it, I begged. But
I'm just tired of living with you. That's all.
his answer was always the same. I don't want this. I want to be with David, I protested, tears uncontrollably streaming down my face, despite my desire not to cry.
Your tears won't change anything. My decision is final.
David said coldly. Was I a burden to David? Did I make him unhappy instead of being his support? I wanted to be the light in his heart, like he was for me, but maybe I was never capable of that. Perhaps someone like me, who never knew love, couldn't properly love another. Where did I go wrong? What did I do to deserve this? I was left questioning myself. My heart was filled with regret. Even when David went back to work, leaving the house empty, I couldn't focus on anything but these thoughts. Then, one day, the doorbell rang. Mother-in-law, I exclaimed in surprise as I opened the door. David's mother, who had offered to help us once a week since David's wheelchair-bound life started, stood there. I had completely forgotten about her kind offer.
Love, you look so thin. Are you all right?
She asked, concerned upon seeing me.
Today, I'll take care of the household chores. You rest.
She said with a smile, reminding me so much of David. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness, realizing it had been ages since I'd seen his smile.
Oh dear, you're crying. What's wrong?
She asked, gently rubbing my back as we sat on the sofa. I felt hesitant to discuss David with his mother, feeling guilty, but she reassured me.
It's okay, love. I'm also your mother. I want to help you. If there's anything you can talk about, please do.
Mother-in-law. I was touched by her kindness, something I had never really experienced from a mother figure before. So I confided in her, sharing everything about my relationship with David. After hearing it all,
Thank you for sharing with me.
she simply thanked me for opening up and waited with me for David's return. Around 8 p.m., David came home. Seeing his mother, "Oh, you came. Thank you." He just briefly acknowledged her presence and headed to his room. She, however, pulled his wheelchair back into the living room where I was sitting. "Excuse me for a moment." Then, to her surprise, she picked up the divorce papers I had left on the table and tore them to shreds. Both David and I were stunned. She then said,
Marriage is a commitment made by two people. It's important not to lie to each other. It's about being honest and open and choosing to stay together despite knowing the truth about each other. The same goes for divorce. If you can't understand each other's true feelings, even a divorce won't open a new path.
She looked at both of us and continued,
Discuss your true feelings with each other. If you still think divorce is the right answer, then you can consider signing those papers.
with a slight smile. She then left us alone, leaving us to ponder her words. The true feelings. Yes, that's it. I realized there was so much I hadn't expressed to David. Why I wanted to be his strength. I shouldn't give up on sharing my feelings, worrying about how I might be perceived or thinking I'm not worthy. Maybe my mill was trying to tell me that. As I opened my mouth to speak, David beat me to it.
Love, I'm sorry.
His unexpected words took me by surprise. It had been a while since he called me by my name.
I was scared to show you any more of my weaknesses, love, as I lost the ability to do things on my own, burdening you constantly. I'm 8 years older, aging faster, and now needing care so early. It seemed inevitable that I would only bring you hardship. You're still young with so many possibilities ahead, and I feared I was crushing them. That's why I was scared and felt so guilty. I promised to make you happy, but I couldn't. I thought I didn't deserve to be with you.
Hearing this, David looked down, tears streaming down his face. He cared about me so much. I realized I hadn't noticed his feelings at all. I was so focused on my own hurt that I missed how broken David was inside. He had been acting cold on purpose, trying to push me away. David hadn't changed. I am happy, truly. This isn't just to cheer you up. It's how I genuinely feel. Even if you can't walk, even if your abilities have lessened, you're still you, David. I've never once thought I didn't want to be with you. You're the only one who brought love and smiles into my life, which had neither. That hasn't changed, not in the past, not now, not ever. Being cool or not isn't what matters. I love you, David, and you're my top priority. I poured out my heart, holding nothing back, and hugged David, who was still looking down.
Thank you, love. Thank you.
He sobbed, then smiled that familiar smile again. 10 years later, David and I, having reconnected our hearts, returned to living with smiles. We moved to a larger house more suitable for a wheelchair, adapting well to our new life. Unable to have children of our own, we decided to foster kids from a children's home I once stayed in. It's a process with many steps, not immediate, but we hope to offer a ray of hope to children who, like I once was, are on the brink of losing love and hope. My life might still be far from ordinary, but now I can say with confidence, I am very happy. Now, I want to be someone who gives, not just receives, spreading this happiness further.